Today we are talking about, obviously, how to move from frazzled to focused in your business. Because let's be honest, running your own business can often leave you feeling scattered, stretched thin, and stuck in a constant cycle of doing. Does anyone feel that? Especially us solopreneurs, I feel like we're constantly just trying to keep up and do everything we can, both work in the business and on the business, and it can feel like a lot. One minute you're drowning in your to-do list. The next you're wondering, will I ever have time to do the work that really lights me up, that got me into this business in the first place? I've lived this reality myself. I see it every day. I run a private community called the Create Your Purpose Collective. Cindy's in it, Nikki's been in it along with my one-on-one clients. It's really that feeling that you're not really running your business. Oftentimes it's running you. Does anyone relate to that? Yeah. And often it's running you straight into the ground. Now, maybe it's not that dramatic for you, but maybe you at least relate a little bit. Either way, that is what we're going to talk about today. So you are in the right place. Now, I do have some good news. It doesn't have to stay this way. And that's really what we are going to explore today together. So you can think of me as, I like to think of myself, an anti-overwhelm strategist, because honestly, there is already enough chaos in the world, especially over the past few weeks. My goodness, I've tried to turn my phone off or put it in a drawer so many times just to be able to focus on my work because there's just so many things happening. Also, I've been in this online business game for a long time, and I'm kind of sick of how most advice, especially when it comes to business growth, lives in the extremes. Like there's on one side, there's the hustle bros. We all know them, where they're just shouting rise and grind and then selling you like supplements on the side. But then on the other extreme, there's like the manifestation babes saying it's all about mindset. But I'm thinking, well, where's the middle? Where's the nuance? Where's the context? Like, I find nuance very sexy. I don't know about you guys. Does anyone like nuance and context? I hope so. Because really, over the past 6 years, I've been building a community of women entrepreneurs who think like this, who are kind of done with these one size fits all business strategies that we're being targeted with all the time on Instagram and Facebook, and who are really ready to grow in a way that actually fits them as humans. Because I really think the truth is you don't need another tactic. You don't need another thing to add to your to-do list. What you all need and what I think you're here for, I hope, and let me know in the chat if this is the case, you really are craving clarity, like clarity about where you're going in your business, why it matters to you personally, and also clarity around how to get there in a way that feels good and also feels like you. So that's where we're headed today. And I just want to give you a few upfront things that I believe in, since some of you are new to my world, and I just want to kind of like set the stage here. I really truly believe in this idea, both in business and life, of purposeful refinement. So often we have these feelings of like burning everything down when something's not going well, or doing these kind of dramatic overhauls or pivots. Like we hear about pivots all the time. And today we are not going to talk about doing necessarily more. Because I don't know about you, but for so long in my own business and in my clients' business, and hearing this from collective members, I have equated more with doing better. Even Annie, I was on your website yesterday and I saw you said you help people who equate kind of their output with their worth. And I think that's something that so many of us struggle with, especially as women and especially in business. So today we're not going to be talking about doing more. We're going to really truly talk about doing what matters most based on who you are, your goals, and the season of business and frankly, life that you are in. And here's the best part, as a recovering perfectionist myself, I have learned in being a business strategist that clarity really doesn't come from perfection. It comes from taking action. So even small steps like showing up today if you feel like something's not quite working in your business and you're not sure what to do, that is a small step forward. So my goal today is simple. It's to really help you cut through some of the noise, the chaos, the overwhelm that this world just naturally is designed to give us, and to really get clear on what drives you, where you want to take your business, and how you want to do those next steps forward on purpose. So now I can say hi. Welcome everybody. My name is Quinn Tempest. If you don't know, it probably sounds like I'm Marvel's next superhero. That is my real name. I've been told I sound like Marvel's next superhero, which would be great because I live in Phoenix, Arizona. The high today, I think, is 102. So I'm very jealous of the Pacific Northwest people, the New Hampshire people, although it's supposed to get cooler. So for now, my only superpowers are not controlling the weather, but I am a business and marketing strategist. So I help people zoom out on their strategies, think about what are the next steps. And I also have been in this game for a long time. So over 15 years in the digital marketing space, design, brand strategy. Are there any corporate girlies here or any ex-corporate girlies? A few of you. Yeah, so I was a director of marketing at an agency. So, oh, thank you, Sarah. So I used to lead the strategic development for large corporations, traveled the country speaking, but really my heart always lied with the little guys, with the solopreneurs, the small business owners who are really purpose driven. Because frankly, I think if you have been in the corporate world, you know you're trying to steer a really big ship and you're probably only going to drive 1% of change, if that. And I have found so much meaning in working with smaller businesses, especially women, to build something that's meaningful to them. And that's kind of my proudest achievement. A few members are here, either former or current members. About 6 years ago, actually 6 years ago last week, we celebrated our 6-year birthday. I founded my Create Your Purpose Collective. So this is my private community that's a strategic support space for women entrepreneurs to kind of come together around these ideas and to take action purposefully. And so really that's at the core of my work. It's about helping women entrepreneurs both find clarity and focus in how they grow and doing it with purpose and on purpose in a world that's designed to overwhelm us. And frankly, that is what today is all about too. So I am glad you guys are all here today. So here's our agenda. First, we're going to talk about the sneaky signals of overwhelm and frazzledness, because I'm sure that's why all you were here. You're feeling a little bit of that. And also talk about why they're normal, not a sign that you're broken, which is a theme I want to come back to throughout today. Then we are going to look at something I call, and if you've been at any of my trainings before, this is brand new, so I'm excited to share it with you, the frazzled to focus continuum, so that you can really see exactly where you are right now. Next, I'm going to walk you through what I call the purposeful refinement roadmap. This is a framework that I use both with my one-on-one clients and inside my Create Your Purpose collective to really help entrepreneurs clearly see what's next, how am I growing my business from this place of purpose and not overwhelm. And then finally, we'll pull it all together and talk about actions, because I really want you to walk away from today knowing what you can focus on to grow your business purposefully this fall. And of course, we'll talk about how you can sustain that with the right support. So before we dive in, just a quick housekeeping note. I absolutely know how the world feels like it's on fire some days, especially over the past few weeks. And sometimes it is. So if you need to step away, like obviously do that. But if you can, kind of treat this as a gift to be here. Close your tabs, put your phone on airplane mode if you need to, because this is really an hour just to pause, zoom out, and focus on your business and instead of getting swept up in it. Has anyone ever heard of the overview effect? Anyone? So it's this idea that came from astronauts actually going into outer space and looking back at the big blue marble of the Earth. And it's kind of this change in their perspective of seeing this fragile Earth and seeing it for what it is. And that's kind of what I see this training as in this next hour, is us kind of zooming out, looking at our business from a higher perspective and kind of asking, what do I need and what do I need to do in order to move this forward? So I just love that visual of like, okay, let's zoom out, let's get some air and maybe feel a little weightless, because that's always the fun of going to space, right? So, our goal today, like I said, it's not to do any dramatic pivots in an hour or to burn down your business. It's simply to help you move one step from feeling frazzled, drained, and overwhelmed, like you hate everything in your business, which hopefully you don't, but to feeling more intentional, clear, and focused. Almost imagine like Taylor Swift here. This was one of my favorite songs, Cardigan. Although I'm not a Swiftie, I do like certain songs. But she's like excited to crack open her laptop in the morning. And that's really what happens when you're clear on what you're going to focus on and how you're going to grow your business in a way that feels good. So, does that sound good? Let me know in the chat. Put it like a magical emoji, like a witch, a fairy, a sparkle, or like fireworks. Let's just get the energy going in the chat. I'm going to pick my favorite one and put it in there. I'm going to do the sparkle. That's the Create Your Purpose Collective mascot. So any email I send to our members, I start with the sparkle. Oh, Nikki! I love that. The school bus. Hey, you got to do what's true to you. Oh, Erin, we got a little fairy. Any other magical? Oh, the wand, Sarah. That's a great one. A cowgirl. Yeehaw, Sarah. Megan the Star. Awesome. Okay. Well, we set the stage. We're feeling the energy, and let's go ahead and dive in to the meat of today. So, running a small or solo business, as we all know, can often feel like this, a roller coaster. And it's really not like that twinkly cute music one at Disneyland. Is that Small World? This is more like Knott's Berry level farm of chaos. You know, we've all felt it. One minute you're landing a client and you feel unstoppable. And then the next, your leads have dried up. You start second guessing yourself. The doubts creep in. And you start to think, should I just apply to like a real job? Has anyone done that in the past couple of years? I did. I remember distinctly about 2.5 years ago, I was coming back from my extended maternity leave and I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I got over it, but we all have those lapse of moments, even if we are 15 years into running your business. But really, this roller coaster is not just draining, it's disorienting, especially when you're doing all the things. Yeah, I see you, Nikki, and there's no shame in that game. You're wearing all the hats and you're constantly kind of reacting instead of actually steering. But here's the thing that I really want to say. It doesn't have to be this way all of the time. And I truly mean that. Because when you're clear on where you're going, why it matters, and also how to actually get there one step at a time. It's not that you're not still on the roller coaster, but it doesn't knock you out every time a loop comes around. So I really want to say this because it was something I frankly wish someone had told me a long time ago in my own business. It's something I tell all of my collective members is that if you're stuck in this kind of cycle of frazzled feelings, you are not broken. You're just frankly stuck in a pattern, one that I see all of the time with entrepreneurs at different levels of business. So I wanted to kick things off with a quick game to kind of see exactly where this might be showing up for you. So I'm going to walk through 4 common patterns I see when business starts to feel stuck. And your job is just to notice which ones resonate. Which one could you almost have said yourself? And there are only 2 rules. You can relate to more than one. I'm going to ask you to use the chat. So put the number that relates to you, and you can put more than one number. Also, the second rule is, as one of my favorite Peloton instructors says, no ego, amigo. This is not about shaming or judging you. It's just about kind of establishing where you are so we can move forward. Okay? So drop the number in the chat that feels most true to you, or a couple of them. Number 1, I have tried everything in my business and nothing feels like it's working. Is this you? Put it in the chat. This is when you've done the courses, you've raised your prices, you've pivoted your offers, but you still feel kind of stuck, like you're spinning your wheels. Any ones in the house? We'll see as we go along. I'm sure you want to see the rest of them. Number 2, pop 2 in the chat if this is you. I'm completely drained and exhausted by my business. This is when you've been kind of hustling nonstop, but instead of feeling accomplished or that you've moved forward, you just feel kind of spent. Number 3, I am pulled in a million different directions. I hear this a lot from my collective members because they're doing all the things. They're running a solo business. They're doing client work, marketing, Nikki. Number 3, admin. It's all kind of coming at you at once, and you constantly feel behind and just trying to keep up. Cindy as well, Annie. Yeah, I feel you. This one's really draining, not just professionally, but personally. And number four, and now you can see all of them, so you can see if you are more than one. I'm stuck and I don't know what I'm supposed to focus on next. Usually, this means you're showing up, you're doing the work, but the next step isn't really clear to you of like, okay, how do I grow? What do I focus on? And you're starting to get frustrated. Yeah, Sarah, three, one and four for Muddy. Oh, okay, now they're all coming in. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta see them. And like I said, no ego amigo. This is just trying to feel like where you are and what you're feeling so we can talk about where to go next. Peaches, number four. Three wing one. What is that? Enneagram? Is that Enneagram, I believe? Is the wing? That's another way to do it. I like that. Is there anyone kind of who wants to be brave enough, unmute and share which one of these resonated the most and why? You can use the raise hand feature. I can see everyone if anyone would be willing to share. Annie, was that you or were you just moving your mic? Sorry.
Oh, I was moving my mic, but I was going to volunteer to share
Great, sorry.
anyway. So you knew somehow. No, I feel like I'm kind of 3/4,
Okay.
being pulled in a million directions, but I'm still fairly like new on in business, so I am
Yeah.
excited about a million things. I
Mhm.
feel stuck on all of them, and I don't know which one to do. So it's like 3 and 4 with a lot of enthusiasm
Yes.
and like fear of burnout.
Oh, totally. And I see this a lot when you're newer in business is that excitement is there. And that is that's such an opportunity. I think we often look at it as, oh, well, I've just got all of these ideas, but it is so fun. Like I even remember in my own business being in that stage and it's exciting. But at one point, it does have to kind of shift. And we're going to
Mhm.
talk about that. But I always think about this quote. I'm not sure where I heard it, but you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And I think at one point you start to realize that in the stage of your business where doing everything and hustling harder kind of has a shelf life. So maybe you're not there yet, but frankly, Andy, the fact that you're even noticing that is huge. And that's the point of this game is just to start noticing. So thank you for being brave and for being a volunteer. There'll be other chances for us to share as well. So, as I said, if you related to more than one of these, it's totally normal. And I want to say this, and it's important. These are not failures. What I see them as are signals. And when we don't read the signals clearly for what they are, we fall back on what I call, and what many of you are likely familiar with, the spaghetti strategy of business growth. It sounds tasty, but it's not. We often think that the problem is just like a lack of effort or the wrong tool or that one thing we haven't tried yet. And honestly, this like online business industrial complex kind of feeds us this, right? It tells us success lives in external formulas, shiny tactics, or just if you buy my 10 secrets to make 10K a month PDFs, it'll all be solved, right? We've all seen those kind of ads. They drive me bonkers. But when none of that works, I think what I've seen the most with my collective members and frankly myself is we blame ourselves. Like there's something inherently wrong with us. So we continue to throw spaghetti at the wall, hoping to see something stick. For example, and if you resonate with any of these, again, feel free to share it in the chat. You're not alone. And the whole point of this being a communal training is to show you that. We might go down Google rabbit holes trying to find the answer to our challenges for 3 hours. We might download another freebie that gives us a promise that something's going to get fixed by the end of this PDF. We try a new tactic that's really shiny. Oh, this is a favorite. Usually we go to the store and buy a new planner because of course, buying a pretty new planner with tabs and a pretty new pen is going to help us do the things that we want to do, right? And then, like 2 weeks later, you forget about it. Or you post more on social. This was something we were just talking about in the collective a couple of months ago. One of our members, Caroline, was saying, I've been posting 2 times a day for months and I am so exhausted and I'm not seeing results. And we had a really good conversation because we kind of interrogated where that came from. Like, why were you doing it in the first place? Also, have you checked in on the results of that? Is it worth the effort on an ROI perspective? And we kind of had a great discussion of like, no, how about you change it and give that a different job? That's another thing we tend to do. We like to rebrand everything, or this is a big one. We raise our rates because we're like, yeah, I'm valuable. And then like one person turns us down and we think, oh, it's definitely the rate. It's not them. I'm going to change it and I'm going to lower it again. Has anyone done that? Yeah, yeah, it's tough. Now, no shame, of course, if you've done any or all of these, I have too, but these are not growth strategies for businesses. These are reactions. And reactions can tend to keep us busy, but they rarely move us forward. And I will say that there's a real cost to all of this spaghetti tossing, and it's burnout. Like the real, true capital B burnout enters the chat. And I also want to say, like, it's important to know this isn't the kind of burnout that you fix with a weekend off or a bubble bath. I really truly see this burnout as systemic. And I even think about this in the broader kind of system that we live in this world. But it happens when the way that you're working no longer fits the business or the life that you're trying to build. And we're often told that a weekend away, a mindset hack, or this breathing technique is going to fix it. But if you're walking away from a dumpster fire only just to go back a few minutes later, nothing changes. It just becomes a vicious cycle. So, burnout in this sense isn't necessarily about doing too much. Sometimes it's doing things that are out of alignment. And fixing that kind, it's not about more rest, it's about upgrading, which we'll talk about in a second. But that probably leads me to a question you're thinking, okay, wait a minute, but why is this all happening? Why am I getting stuck in this loop? Or why do I have these doubts in my brain? So this might feel a little weird, but I actually have good news on this. In fact, congratulations. You ought to be proud of yourself. You have actually hit a milestone because if you're experiencing all the things we just talked about on kind of a loop, you've likely outgrown the stage of business that you've been in. So, yay, that's actually a good thing, right? It means you're ready for a new way of operating. So, the challenges you're facing, they're typically not random. You're just reading the signals the wrong way. And the signals that your business has evolved, but the way that you're operating as an entrepreneur has not quite caught up yet. So, really, if anything, it means that your business is growing and you're ready for more in just a different way. I will also say that for many of us women solopreneurs, because that's all I work with now is women, the pressure tends to be doubled or tripled, frankly, because we are carrying the business. Plus, many of us, whether you're a mom, watching for elderly parents, whatever it is, you're doing caregiving, you are bringing emotional labor, and frankly, everything else that our society throws at us and threatens us with. Like, no wonder we end up turning the blame inward. It actually reminds me of Taylor Swift's Anti-Hero song where she goes, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me." But you are not the problem. You didn't do anything wrong. And the way I like to explain this is with a metaphor we all know, your phone's operating system. Because when you started, you were likely running what I like to call like Hustler OS. Annie, this might be a little bit where you are now. And honestly, it worked. You wore all the hats, you worked the late nights bled into the weekends, you did whatever you could to get things off the ground. But as I said before, this kind of hustle has a shelf life. What used to feel scrappy and exciting now feels really draining. And that's why those signals we talked about, they keep popping up because it's basically your system screaming at you, update me already. Because to move from frazzled to focus, why we are here today, you don't need more hacks or to-dos. What you really need is a whole new way of operating as an entrepreneur. One that's really built for where you want to go in your business, not where you were like 6 months ago or 3 months ago, but where you want to lead your business and yourself next. So if we're to kind of compare and contrast, think of Hustler OS as like a hamster on a wheel, like you're running really hard, but you're not getting anywhere fast. And so, in order to move forward, you kind of need to have an identity shift that moves you into the leader OS. That's more about becoming the captain of your own ship, really deciding what matters to you, what your goals are, and what you need to focus on both week in and week out to get there. And even when you know it's time to upgrade, I will say it's easy to keep slipping back into hustle mode because it's the kind of the waters we wade in. So I want to just kind of pause here and check in because if your system is asking for that upgrade, where are you today? And that's kind of what I want to introduce to you next is a little visualization to help pinpoint exactly where you are. And I'd love to get, once I introduce this, a volunteer to see if anything resonates with you here. So here is what I call, and this is brand new, but it's brand new, but it's not because it's like been what I've been teaching forever, just a different visualization. This is the frazzled to focus continuum. So as I go through these, I want you to start to pinpoint where you think you are. And you can feel free to drop it in the chat if you're like, oh, that's totally me. I also want to say before I go into this, like, this is not about revenue or how mature your business is in the traditional sense that we talk about it. Like, I have seen literally multi six-figure entrepreneurs feel completely frazzled. And then I've seen really early stage folks already operating in a more focused way. So it's much more about you as the entrepreneur versus necessarily the traditional business markers of success. Okay. So because I say that because I've been leading my collective of women, like many of you over the years. And it's when they can really root back in themselves and build their business from the inside out that all of that noise and chaos we started to talk about calms down. Okay, so first on the left, we've got scattered. This is where everything feels reactive, spaghetti all over your face. And you're focused on a lot of external things. It's not really coming from a grounded, centered place. We already talked about this earlier, but you probably know the feeling, even if you're not in it 24/7. I think most of us can dip in and out of this at different times, depending on what's going on in your roller coaster. And like I said earlier, it's not that you're doing anything wrong, but it's a signal that it's time to shift into the next phase because most of the people I've seen stay in this, if they stay in it too long, they just give up after a while or they burn out so completely that they just can't even keep going. The second one is stretch. Many of you might be here. I'd actually love to hear. This is when you're typically pretty busy. Oftentimes you're booked a good amount of times, but it starts to feel unsustainable for you personally. You've got some proof of success, but it's not necessarily consistent. And it feels kind of disorganized and draining. There aren't many systems in place. You don't really have a rhythm for working on your business because you're constantly working in it. And I will say this is like a very normal stage of business growth, but that doesn't make it any less draining. Does anyone resonate with this one? Yeah, yeah. These are the realm of frazzled, these two. So let's look at what is kind of the next step of this. The next step is realigning. And this is really where you start to do the zoom out, the overview effect. You ask bigger questions, you reset with intention, and you start to really build something that's sustainable. I see this as often the shift from I'm just a freelancer to I'm an entrepreneur building a business. And that is a big identity shift right there. And honestly, the fact that many of you are here today tells me that you're probably kind of moving into this stage. Oh, that's good, Sarah. That's the perfect sign. Yes, yes, you can relate. Good. Like the fact that you are all here, you're probably curious about, okay, I'm inching towards that, but I'm hoping this gives you a little bit more of a visualization and like understanding of what you're going through because it's totally normal. This stage also is kind of where that operating system upgrade happens. It's kind of like when you finally plug in your phone on the nightstand at night and you walk away, you let the update run. It takes some time. Erin, you're between stretch and realigning too. Great, you're in the right place. And I will say, it doesn't mean that you never slip back. Like I've seen our collective members inch forward, slide back, but inch forward again. But each time they do that, they build like a lot of confidence and resilience. The last stage is kind of aspirational, but it's totally possible. This is aligned, and this is the realm of really true focus, where your actions start to feel aligned with where you want to go. Your energy in your business feels a little steady, calm, and you're starting to build momentum. And I'm not saying this is like the perfection stage, but you do feel more purposeful more of the time. So I'm seeing some things I'd love to see any more. Would anyone like to actually share and come on? that hasn't shared yet, and raise your hand and we'll talk about it, like where you are in this stage. Feel free to raise your physical hand or use the hand feature up there. Yeah, Diana, go ahead. Feel free to unmute.
Hey, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. Well, I am between that scattered and stretched. It's, I'm not feeling as, you have grounded there for
Yeah.
in the scattered, and I'm an organizer feeling disorganized. That's what it is. Very honestly, I know that I'm very good at what I do. I can go in, but business wise
Yeah.
is where the disorganization is coming. The marketing end of it, you know, feeling like, before the other, I've tried everything, but yet I don't know what to do next. It's like, I feel like I've tried everything, but I know I haven't tried everything. And so what's next? So
Yeah.
that's the push and pull of, of being scattered in the business part of it, but yet knowing I'm an organizer who can,
Yeah.
in the physical and otherwise, uh, do a good job with that. And so it's um, doing things like this to learn what what are pieces that I haven't even considered. What are those things that need to be aligned that I'm just not aware of, either because it's just too scattered, or I just haven't. It's just not something that's in my wheelhouse yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Diana. Little sparkles for Diana. I know it's not easy to speak up on this stuff, but I think you bring up a good point, and I can see how it would feel almost disorienting because you are an organizer in your business. But oftentimes, the skill set of what we do in our business is very different than the skill set that we need to cultivate in order to work on our business, which is what we're talking about. It's doing that overview of saying, what does my business need? How do I move forward? And so you're totally not alone. This is something we continuously talk about in the collective. And it's something that I'm really passionate about instilling that skill set because so many of us are good at what we do. But in terms of running and leading the business and stepping into that other role, that is often something we just don't know, especially if we didn't, necessarily go to school for it or worked in businesses otherwise. So yeah, I just want to validate that and say it. That can probably feel very disorienting, but you're definitely in the right place. And we're going to talk about like what do you need to do to kind of get that alignment next. So thank you for sharing. Yeah. And honestly, I will say like this type of reflection is so important and the zooming out. It's something we do inside the collective a lot, like literally both weekly on a small basis, monthly, because we do a monthly co-working session where we reflect as a community, and then quarterly, because it's so hard to do on your own. Like, of course, you're gonna choose to prioritize the things that are like delivering client work or sending out invoices versus like, what do I need to do next in my business? But it's the ability to kind of both zoom in and zoom out that you have to cultivate in order to get out of these two frazzled states. And it just takes time, it takes practice, it takes reps, basically. I don't know if anyone likes strength training, but it takes reps. You just got to keep building that muscle over time. Okay, so here is why that matters. And we're going to get into a little bit more reflection here so you can put this into practice. Because when you know where you're at on this continuum, you can really stop judging yourself so harshly and really just focus on moving one step forward. I think so often in those frazzled states, we're like the kid in the back seat saying, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" Because you want to be further than you are in your business. But I think what this does is really normalize where you are and also gives you a clear focus on how to move one step forward. Plus, in doing it in like a community or a pop-up training like this, you remember that you're not alone. Like a lot of people are struggling with it. This is why I founded my collective 6 years ago, because you are not alone. Also, you remember that you don't have to copy what someone else is doing in their business. I think it's so easy to see the outside of people's businesses online, but we don't know what they did to get there or all of the ways that they started maybe a couple steps ahead or behind us. And remember, this whole continuum, it's not about judgment, it's just data. It's just a way to reflect. And the goal isn't to go all the way to focused overnight. I'm what, 15 years into my business or something like that. And I still slip back too. And that's normal because we're human and humans are messy. But the goal is just to keep moving one step at a time. So if that is the goal, I'm guessing the obvious question is, well, okay, how, Quinn? You told me this was going to be actionable. So that is where the idea of purposeful refinement comes in. And this really lives at that stage and that transition of stretch to realigning. It's really a shift point because you're no longer just stretched thin, but you're not necessarily fully focused either. You're starting to upgrade your phone, your OS system, and the way that you operate, and you're starting to take action that moves you in the direction you want to go. I add the idea of purposeful. Well, first off, because I own the trademark Create Your Purpose, and purpose is like all I think about. But it's purposeful because it has to be rooted in your values, what matters to you, what your goals are, and also like your unique way of working. So, I want to give you a little visual of what your day may look like now. It might look like this. Arrows pointing in every direction, emails over here, clients over there, marketing, admin, all of it going wonky this way and that. Does anyone relate to this? Did anyone have a day that felt like this within the last 2 weeks? I know I did. Yeah, it looks like a hot mess and it totally feels like one too. One of my favorite yoga teachers actually used to say, everything is revealed in contrast. So let's look at the difference when you start practicing purposeful refinement in your business. Ugh, so much better, right? Calm, orderly, contained. All those little daily actions, all those little arrows, they very slowly, I hope you appreciate my animation. It took an hour to do. They slowly start to line up, moving towards that bigger vision that contains them all. And that's that large arrow. And I want to say here, I was very intentional about how this lined up because not every arrow is going to be perfect. It's not about getting a fully linear look here. Perfection isn't the goal, but progress is. Like, think about it as more alignment today than yesterday, more things moving in the same direction, not necessarily all of them. So I want to make this real. I want you to imagine that the big arrow that contains all the little things in it, that is where you want to head in your business over the next year. Let's actually try this all together in the chat, and I'll maybe ask for a volunteer too. Imagine it is a year from now. What do you want more of in your business? And what do you want less of? You can even type it. I'll put it in the chat. You could do more, less, like that. Like copy paste that if you want. What do you want more of in your business a year from now? And what do you want less of? Some examples as you're thinking or typing, it could be, I want more boundaries in my business and I want less feeling like it's a chaotic, like I'm getting run over by my clients. Or one of mine a couple years ago was just more white space so that my creativity could come back and less overwhelmed because I found that the more overwhelmed I was or the more busy, frankly, the less I had space for that creativity to come to life. So more or less, let's see, Madi, more crew members for your collective. We both have collectives, have fun. Less stress about how to get them. Oh, girl, we can compare notes. Nikki, more revenue. Oh, great. Fewer smaller ticket clients. See that? And I also want to point out here, like, this isn't a fluffy, like, reflection prompt. Like, this is what I start with my clients, my collective members with, because like even Nikki, like more revenue, fewer small ticket clients. That can absolutely inform a strategic priority on revisiting your offers, revisiting your pricing, and also restarting your marketing engine to attract the type of people that are looking for those higher ticket offerings. So it starts internal, it starts big picture, but then it can absolutely inform very strategic priorities you can focus on in your business. Erin, more consistently scheduled projects. I love that. Not just projects randomly, but consistently, and less feeling chaotic on the marketing side of things. Again, such a great lead up into kind of, and I know we've been talking on Instagram, but a lead up to really focusing on marketing. Like, what does my marketing look like? What am I interested in? What are my strengths? And also, how does that intersect with who my people are and what they need in order to move forward? Yes. Diana, more multi-session clients. Love that. So not having to get more clients, but getting more revenue from existing clients and less frustration with marketing. Hey, I've been there too. What marketing engine? You've got it, Nikki. I know you do. Megan, more clients and income and personal time, less juggling. Oh, there's a lot of marketing stuff in here, which is good. Thank you so much for sharing. These are great. And really, this is the heart of purposeful refinement, like defining the direction of that big arrow and then making those small shifts to align everything with it. And so here's the whole roadmap that I want to walk you through because I think it really clearly shows like the next steps. And the whole more or less that you just named, it turns it into actual strategic priorities that help you grow your business, which I kind of modeled for you there. So at the top are vision and purpose. So vision, like we just talked about, it's like your end destination. It's where you're headed. All of us will have a different one. Some of you have a beautiful destination of a cabin in the woods where you're drinking hot cocoa, where some of you are dancing on the beach in the Caribbean. We got to really visualize where we're headed to be clear about how to get there. The second thing there is purpose. I like to think of purpose as your fuel. You as the entrepreneur, what drives you? And it's that personal drive that really sustains you through the inevitable kind of potholes and bumps along the way. And here's the thing about purpose. I could talk about this for an hour, which I won't, but most of us start our business with a really strong vision and purpose. Like you all probably know that and can feel that, but they evolve. And if we don't pause to reconnect with them, whether it's 1 year in, 5 years in, 10 years in, mine has changed multiple times in my own business. If we don't pause to check in, it's easy to get stuck doing without a sense of direction. You know, it's why even inside our collective, we literally spend the first 90 days like working on this roadmap because if your vision and your purpose has evolved since you started, and they almost always do, then what you're doing on the day to day, what you're focused on, your priorities, the marketing, clients, whatever it is, you have to realign those arrows to go in the direction you want to go. Otherwise, you're going to just keep working hard, but feel like you're slipping back into scattered or stretched. So next, you translate that vision and purpose into goals and priorities. We've already kind of touched on these, but goals are like the milestones along that path. They give you direction and they help you measure progress. Whereas priorities, I like to think of as the steering wheel. You know, they kind of keep you from veering off the road into every shiny opportunity. So really that's the full picture of how you actually purposefully refine your business and realign it with what matters. So just to recap, so you kind of see the full picture. With vision, you get clear on where you're going. With goals, you build momentum and you move forward one step at a time. With priorities, your focus really stays aligned with what matters most. And of course, with purpose, my favorite part of it, you have that drive and fuel to keep going even when it's hard. So now that you've seen the full roadmap, let's bring it back to you. So I want you to just do this privately for yourself. If you want to share in the chat, you absolutely can, but it's really important that you leave here with some focus. What do you think is one small step that would move you in the direction you want to head? Or in other words, what is the one thing you think that you should focus on next to start moving towards that more of, less of? You don't have to share it. You can just capture it for yourself. I think even just naming it can be powerful. I'll give an example while you're thinking. So for example, if a year from now you wanted the more boundaries and less chaos, your small step and your focus could be something like, I'm going to revisit my client contracts, or I'm even going to set limits around when I reply to emails and communicating that clearly to my clients. Cindy, I think you brought that up in the collective recently of like, hey, do you put parameters in your contracts about fees if they don't respond after a certain time. And that could absolutely fit in with the vision of like more boundaries and all of that. Thank you, Madi. Yeah, I'll send a replay. I even know for me, I had to kind of set boundaries around Monday meetings. I just decided I was done with those. I really needed that day to be able to work on my business and to do it without distraction. So that was a boundary I set. So, what is one thing that you could focus on next this fall in order to take that step forward towards your vision for the next year? If you want to share it, you can. But, oh, Amanda, yeah. Oh, this is so good. Defining and pricing my services, creating a one sheet that outlines all of this content to send to leads to save time in the future. Yes, Amanda, I love that. I think that is so great because it not only forces you to kind of sit down and think through these things and put it all in one place, but it gives you just that natural conversation starter or a conversation extender with leads to say, hey, here's what I do. Like, let's have a conversation. So that's great, Amanda. I love that. Diana, what really drives me to help others organize their lives, not just their stuff. Yes. Oh, I like that one. Really focusing on the purpose behind it. That's great. I know this question can kind of feel pressure to get it right, but I just will say, like, there's no right or wrong answer here, just what feels right to you right now. And if you want to send it to me after, I'm happy to help workshop it with you, because this is really how you kind of take that step forward. And, inside our collective, we go much deeper into that prioritization thing. But for today, I think just naming one small step is powerful. So that is great. So you may be thinking, okay, Quinn, this all sounds nice in theory, but let me give you an actual example of how this can be grounded in reality. I don't know if any of you know Natasha. Does anyone follow her on Instagram? So she is a video marketing educator and creator. She was actually a founding member of my collective, like way back when we started 6 years ago and stayed for a while. And I remember back when she initially joined, she was completely burnt out, very much in that kind of scattered and stretched phase, almost at the pivot between them. She was juggling lots of clients. She was just getting by. I also remember she was really struggling with adrenal fatigue, and she was working with her doctors on that. So, one of the things that we did, and we do with all of our new collective members, is to guide them through the exact purposeful refinement process over their first 90 days with us. And a lot of them say it's like a really special experience because otherwise they wouldn't get this chance to pause and do this work. And I remember Natasha felt the same way and had kind of this insight that she couldn't keep hustling like she was, but she was going to just keep getting the same results of feeling busy, drained, and kind of reactive. But of course, she knew that, but she didn't really know how to navigate out of it. So we were working through it together, through that roadmap we talked about. And really, she started by reconnecting with her vision, which had changed since she started her business. I remember she really wanted to do more teaching. She wanted to do more speaking and educating, which is great because her title now is educator, but back then it was like social media consultant. And that was something she didn't even have time for at that time when she was working through this. And so she had to really kind of reset her priorities in order to open up space for the things that she really wanted for her vision. I remember a big piece of our conversation actually was how she was delivering her services. Did any of you come through Sarah Massey? A couple. So Sarah Massey's like the queen of VIP days. So many of you are probably familiar with her work. She's a friend of mine. And so one of the main suggestions we are working through within Natasha's case was considering shifting to a VIP day model, because something that would let her serve her clients more deeply and also stop burning herself out. And that change was really big for her. Oh, yay, Carolina, good. It kind of opened up the space she desperately needed. And what happened after that was I know she got physically better, and had better energy, not necessarily because of this work, but because she was really pausing. But also, she had the capacity to launch her podcast, something that she's wanted to do. I think she's like hundreds of episodes in at this point. And she also started experimenting with speaking on stages and doing more of that education that really drove her in her business. And really, that's frankly just like one example I've seen of purposeful refinement. And as I said before, it wasn't about burning everything down. It was just like a few small, smart shifts, say that 5 times fast, that really started to help her build her business from the inside out and realign with where she wanted to go. So as we start to wind down here, oh, Erin, you said, yes, I switched to VIPs. Oh, yeah, she's great. We're grabbing coffee next week virtually. And then I think she's coming to Arizona soon. And Sarah too. Yeah. So I want to turn this back on you as we wind down, because I think the specifics of how purposeful refinement lands is different for everyone. Like Natasha, she changed how she was delivering her services. But for you, it might be setting up boundaries, or it might be Amanda, like putting together your offers and pricing or building out systems. That's a big thing I see in the collective is, hey, I'm doing all of this from scratch every single time. How can I switch that? And I really have found that there are 3 specific things to actually make everything we talked about today stick. And really, that's what I want to leave you with as we wind down today, but I'll leave time at the end if you want to stay for Q&A. So here are the 3 things. The first one is structure. I am not just talking about quick bursts of motivation or another fancy planner, but really clear goals, rhythms, and priorities that hold up when things get messy. I think we've all been there, right? Like you read something, you attend a training like this, you get a burst of energy, but then 2 weeks later, you've kind of forgotten about it. And it happens because you don't necessarily have the structure to consistently work on your business or even the accountability that many of us need. I don't know if any of you have heard of the 4 agreements. Wait, is it? I think it's the 4. I might be confusing. It's Gretchen Rubin, and she talks about how you respond to expectations. And some people respond really well to internal thank you, Annie, 4 tendencies. Oh my gosh, not the 4 agreements, I think is like spirituality, but it's how you respond to expectations. And I have found that a lot of solopreneurs, while they are internally motivated, at this point of realignment, really need external accountability. The second piece is space, like real time to pause, reflect, and reset, which can be so hard when you're scattered or stretched. But without that space, we just keep slipping back. We start reacting. And I found that reaction really never leads to sustainable growth. We just stay in a cycle. So think of space as like plugging your phone in at night to run the upgrade. It's not forever, but it's helping you kind of zoom out and get out of the weeds for a little bit. The last thing is support so that you're not doing this in a silo. And that's why I like to do trainings and make it interactive and introduce people to others, because I think left to our own devices, most of us slip right back into old patterns. I know I personally learned this a hard way. For a long time, I tried to be a lone wolf in my business, sitting alone at home in my yoga pants, doing everything myself. Also thinking I was the only one going through things like I was special. But I think what I really discovered since is the opposite of what I believed back then, that the times that I've grown the most haven't been when I've powered through alone. It's like connecting with other people, knowing that, they get it and that we're going through the same thing. And also reminding myself that I'm not crazy for rejecting hustle culture or choosing to do things differently than what we see on the outside of a lot of people's businesses online. So it's really these 3 things that I have found: structure, space, and support working together that help you start to grow on purpose. Not just your bottom line, although that's a nice byproduct, but kind of your maturity and confidence as an entrepreneur and as a human. And I know you've heard me mention it all along, but this is exactly why I founded my collective 6 years ago, because back then I was working with a lot of one-on-one clients who were dealing with a lot of the same challenges. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm glad they can talk to me, but I also kept thinking, well, wouldn't it be better if they could talk to each other, like support one another and know that they're not alone? And don't worry, I'm not doing any kind of heavy pitch today, but I do want to invite you, if everything resonated with you today and if it feels right, to at least just check us out while applications are open till October 9th. Because frankly, I founded this 6 years ago because I was kind of tired of seeing women stuck between the two extremes, which maybe you're familiar with, like the really expensive masterminds that vanish after a few months, or what seemed to pop up like during and after COVID, which were those content memberships where you basically like get a tool every month, but you never actually connect with anyone else in the membership. And so I really wanted to build something different and unique. Nikki's here, Cindy's here that have been in the collective. And I really see it as a container to help you work on your business, not just in it. And also, and maybe this is like high-minded of me, but a movement that goes against the norms of hustle culture, as well as the prescriptive online advice that frankly usually doesn't fit anyone's business except the person making money off of that ad. And of course, most importantly, to connect you with women who are also growing from a place of purpose and not overwhelm. So we're going to have time for Q&A about the material of the training. And if you will just oblige me for 3 slides, I will just share a little peek about what the collective is about in case it feels like something that would really help you right now. So when you join, we start with that 90-day process we talked about, leading you through that literal purposeful refinement roadmap. We reconnect you with your vision and purpose, that big arrow that you named earlier. We set clear objectives on a quarterly basis and then actually figure out what you're going to do as well as what you'll let go. And then I think the biggest thing too that a lot of our members like is the supportive rituals. So I've mentioned a few of them. We do co-working, we do quarterly planning strategic workshops, and we give a lot of accountability to not just take all of this and like internalize it as a lesson, but to put it into action. And I will be your mentor through that 90-day process personally. If you're wondering about time commitment, most of our members actually say an hour a week during the first 3 months, which is mostly on your own time outside of one call with me a month is plenty. And the point is not to add more. It's to really create a foundation that holds you up when things get messy. Thank you, Erin. No worries. I'll send you the replay right after. And then I have found that clarity really starts to fade. And that's when this isn't a pop-up program or a mastermind. It's really an ongoing community. Like I said, we just celebrated our 6th birthday of how to grow on purpose. So we have other things. We have a curated group of women. Everyone has to apply to be let in. We do quarterly workshops. We have education where I invite experts in every month. And we do live co-working as well. Because the whole goal of this is helping give you structure to sustainably grow your business with the right people alongside of you. And some of our members have been in, I think half of our members have been in for over 2 years. So we have a really strong, tight-knit community of women who think the way that we all think on this call today. And if you've been listening and anything today was like, oh, this is really resonating, chances are you're already probably a good fit. It's for established solopreneurs in that scattered/stretch phase who really want to realign, who want structure and strategy, and who don't want to keep going about it alone. So that's it. But I want to say if any of this resonated with you, if you felt a spark, I'd love to invite you in. Applications are open until October 9th. I'm giving just a little early bird bonus. If you apply before the weekend, I'll give you $100 off if you're accepted. But I'm also open to having conversations with anyone. Like I said, this isn't a huge group. We have around 25 members. Everyone knows each other, but we also have enough people where you can really tap into great expertise and kind of compare notes. I also am personally very involved. Every call I lead, I am in the forum every day. I do business strategy office hours quarterly, and I am your personal mentor through the Purposeful Refinement Roadmap. So this is a really special community, and I'm happy to have any one-on-one conversations with anyone that's interested. And if the timing's not right, my hope that you are leaving today with more clarity and focus than when you came in. So with that, I'd love to have about 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A. Anything that resonated with you today, or if you have specific questions around how this applies to your business. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing so I can see all of you again. Does anyone have a question or just want to share like something that resonated with you today? Feel free to raise your hand. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Annie.
It's like, how do you know I'm about to talk when I put the mic down? No, that the arrows, like, I'm so glad you spent an hour making that
Thank
slide
you.
animation because it just made so many things so clear for me.
Oh, good. What kind of spoke to you in that?
Oh, I think I'm a very visual person. And so I think seeing the scattered arrows and then seeing them kind of collect into a single arrow, I feel like it's something that we talk about a lot, but sometimes when you finally have something that helps you connect, in a way that like fits your learning style, it's really nice.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah, so thank you for
Yeah,
that.
I'm glad that resonated. I think some of this can be really lofty and like heady. And so I always try to think of like how can we ground this and give people something they can think about later. And it's kind of interesting too, because like one of the things we do in the collective is consistently check in on what stage we're in to kind of just like say, okay, where are we right now? Like, how have I changed or grown in the past 6 months? Like, what is going well? What is not going well? And I think when you have some kind of visual like that, it doesn't feel so philosophical, like you can really see yourself within it. So I'm glad that resonated. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else have just thoughts, questions, or just want to chat? Yeah, Megan, thank you. Diana, how are you feeling? Did you have anything that resonated with you as we went through this?
It's just that I had mentioned before, really getting to what is it that motivates me.
Hmm.
Yes, it's great to make money, but I don't think that's my motivator. My husband's shaking his head no. That's not my motivator. But just really nailing that down and to figure out and what I'm doing now is does that align with that? And so that's the biggest thing that resonated for me today.
Oh, good, good. Yeah. I think oftentimes it's figuring out like what not to do just as much as what to do. And I know it can feel overwhelming when there's like so many options. So I'm glad that that kind of spoke to you. Annie, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Cindy, I know you're a collective member already, but did you like the new continuum? Did it make sense to you?
Yeah, it's always such a good refresher for me. Like I feel like you're constantly in a different phase and you're just kind of growing all the way, but it's just support all the way through. So
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I wanted a different way to visualize it versus like our business stages we talk in the collective. So I'm glad that that landed.
yeah.
Good, good. Nikki, how are you after today? I know you've been in all my trainings over the years, but this one's a little different. So how did it land with you?
Sorry, it's very loud here and I've got to run, but I
Oh,
love it. I just love coming to your trainings to just get a little piece of your mind again.
yeah, good to see you. And
Good to
Carolina,
see you too.
I saw your comment. Yes, I will send out a replay. This is being recorded. So as soon as it stops processing, I'll send it out this afternoon. Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Peaches, Sarah, the other Sarah, Carolina, Diana, Cindy. I appreciate you staying, and thank you for letting me impart my wisdom today. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.